I'm Emily, and I'm going to show you how to make this fun but elegant black and silver striped cake with champagne decorations. I've built my cake and chilled it before applying a crumb coat and then a final coat of frosting. I use an offset spatula to apply the frosting, and this is my 4-minute buttercream frosting. I've put the link in the description below and in the screen. I'm using a bench scraper to smooth the frosting. When I'm happy with the final coat of frosting, I'm grabbing my cake comb, holding it with the base pressed down against the cake board, and turning my turntable to spin the cake and indent the frosting with the comb. I'm doing this quite a few times, until the stripe grooves are as deep as the grooves on the comb. Smoothing out the top of the cake until that's level and smooth, and now I'm going to chill the cake in the fridge for about 30 minutes. This will set the white frosting before I apply the next colour for the stripes. I've made some black frosting with Americolor black gel food colouring, and you need quite a lot to get this jet black colour, but it does get darker with time. So if your colour looks more like dark grey, don't panic. Leave it for about an hour and then check to see if it's darkened enough. I'm putting the black frosting in a piping bag with a little round tip, just because it's what I have handy. You can use a flat tip, a petal tip, whatever you like really. And I have my big bowl of white frosting here, because I'm going to need a bit more of this. Now my cake's cold and I can make the stripes. I'm piping the black frosting into 2 of the grooves, where I want the black stripes to be. I want the black frosting to fill the grooves completely, coming out as far as the white frosting, so when I smooth it there won't be any air pockets. If you're enjoying this tutorial, please click the thumbs up button. I don't want any more stripes in the middle of the cake, so I'm filling these grooves in with the original colour, my white frosting, and this will all blend together so that there are only 2 stripes on the cake, my black stripes. I'm using a little offset spatula, but you could pipe the frosting on instead. I'm spreading more white frosting above and below the black stripes to cover the whole side of the cake. I have a very detailed tutorial on how to do striped cakes with striped cake combs, with 4 secrets to perfect stripes. I've put the link in the top of the screen and in the description below. And now with my bench scraper, I'm starting to smooth. And at the beginning it looks terrifying, smudgy, blurry, stained frosting, but as I keep going, I'm taking off more and more of the black frosting and it's all coming together nicely, with the stripes getting more and more precise as I go. All of the frosting I pull off is blended, white and black, so I'm putting it into a new bowl to use later. I'm smoothing the top of the cake again because some of the white frosting worked its way up the sides of the cake and over the top, and now I'm chilling the cake again before the next step. Now I'm taking the frosting I scraped off from the cake, the black and white mixed together, and putting it into 2 piping bags, with a big open star tip and a smaller open star tip. I'll be using this blended frosting a bit later. When my cake is cold, after about 30 minutes in the fridge, I'm wrapping 2 strips of acetate tightly around it. You can buy acetate at an arts and crafts shop. It needs to be tight around the cake, and the cake has to be cold for this or you'll damage the frosting. I'm taping 1 strip to the top of the cake and 1 to the bottom, leaving a gap in the middle. Now I'm spreading white buttercream around the middle of the cake, filling in the gap between the strips of acetate, and that makes it sticky so I can cover it with this edible silver glitter. You can press it in with your hand like this, or pour the glitter onto a baking tray and then flip the cake on its side and roll the cake in the glitter. When this section of the cake is completely covered with glitter, I'm peeling the acetate off and voila! A pretty silver glittery band around the middle. I'm pouring more of this silver glitter onto the top of the cake, spreading it out to cover the whole top except for a narrow ring around the edge, where I'm going to pipe rosettes. It's tricky to pipe onto glitter or sprinkles because the frosting sticks to the sprinkles and pulls them off the cake, so it's much easier to pipe straight onto the frosting on the cake. I'm using the large open star tip for these rosettes, and then the little open star tip for a border around the bottom of the cake. Now it's time to decorate! I'm rolling out some black fondant quite thin and cutting out a champagne bottle, using a sharp knife and just freehanding it, but you could use a cookie cutter or print out an image and cut it out and trace around it. I'm not using gum paste or adding Tylose powder to the fondant, because I'm going to stick these onto the sides of the cake so they'll come off on the side of someone's slice, and I want the fondant to stay nice and soft, so it's not crunchy when they bite into it. Of course, most people won't eat the decorations anyway, but just in case. Now 2 champagne glasses with these very narrow stems, and so of course the base snaps right off. No problem. I'm using this broken champagne glass to trace another one exactly the same shape, cutting around it to make a second glass. Getting rid of the first one, the broken one, and then using the second glass to cut out a third identical glass. To put some champagne into the glasses, I'm rolling out white fondant really thin and trimming around one of the glasses, just the top part of the glass, and then trimming that so it's the same shape but slightly smaller, so it fits inside the glass. Touching it up, and then tracing this one onto more white fondant to put it inside the other champagne glass. They'll stick onto the glasses with a bit of water, just a tiny bit, so the black fondant doesn't stain the white fondant. I'm using more white fondant to roll and cut out a sticker for the champagne bottle, and the label that goes around the neck of the bottle. I'm brushing them both with a bit of silver luster dust to make them shimmery to match my cake. The lighting's terrible here, so apologies in advance, but I'll tell you what's happening. I'm pushing white pearl sprinkles into the glasses to make indents, and then brushing a tiny bit of water into the indents and sticking the pearls on. These are the bubbles in the champagne. Attaching the champagne labels onto the bottle with a bit of water, and leaving the fondant decorations for a few hours to dry and firm up before transferring them onto my cake. To make the finishing touch for the cake, I'm pouring some silver luster dust into a Ziploc bag, and then putting some chocolate malt balls in the bag, closing it, and then shaking it to cover the balls in silver. This is a trick I learned from Rosie of Rosie's Dessert Spot. I'm piling the silver balls into the middle of the cake to look like champagne bubbles, but I don't like them here, so I'm arranging them around the top of the cake on the frosting rosettes instead. Now, with a bit of frosting as glue, I'm attaching the fondant decorations onto the side of the cake. The bottle, pushing quite firmly onto the cake to make sure it sticks. And now the glasses. And I'm pushing a few more pearl sprinkles into the frosting to make some more champagne bubbles. Ta-da! This would be a fun cake for New Year's Eve or for any big birthdays. If you make this cake, please tag British Girl Bakes when you post your photo on social media so I can see what you make. Thanks for watching! Subscribe to my channel for new cake decorating tutorials every week.